Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science and spirituality are telling us that we are all connected, that we are all one. So what you do to another person, you're literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is A Course of Love with Mari Perron. Mari is a student of A Course in Miracles, and she has dictated the book, has taken dictations. She's a scribe, I like the word scribe, of A Course of Love. I have many new friends who are A Course in Miracles students. Many of my former guests have been inspired by A Course in Miracles. So many people have been telling me about this wonderful book, A Course of Love. So I invited Mari to come on and tell us all about the book, and welcome Mari to Awake to Oneness Radio. How are you, Mari?
I'm good, Caroline. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's our honor to have you here with us today. Can you please share with us how this all came about for you, your journey in being able to take dictation from Jesus, and putting together these wonderful books for us.
I'd love to do that. You know, I don't know. People don't talk about age that much. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 61, and I've started to kind of see things newly, which I think is partially because of age. You know, it's not just, divine knowing, it's human knowing, that human knowing of kind of looking back. And when I began to receive A Course of Love, it was so much bigger than anything I thought was ever going to be coming through me, that at that time, it just sort of blew everything else out of the water. I didn't really see the steps that led to it. It was like, oh, my God, I'm doing this. And it's like this was presented to me as a new Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles was something I had studied, and it's revered around the world. And this all sort of came about because of a dream I had back in 1997 that told me I could no longer sell my mind for money. My mind belonged to God. And that was intriguing, this idea that maybe I kind of translated it into there was some work that God might want me to do if I wasn't working at a job. But of course, it's not always easy to leave a job, and especially this job. I was working with two women who I just loved and who had opened my spiritual path to me. And this is kind of why I started that way with talking about, being my age and looking back, because now I really can see that without the opening that came with these women, I don't know that I could have been open to A Course of Love. What Jesus calls me with A Course of Love is the receiver of it. I'm the first receiver, and other people are also going to be receivers. So we're all kind of in the same thing. I was just the first, and I'm the one that wrote it down. And so that openness was really crucial to me being able to do this. And it was one of my friends that I was working with and began my spiritual journey with who brought me the knowing that it was a new Course in Miracles that I would receive. So I'm going to tell you just real briefly a little bit about that situation that I was in before A Course of Love, because I'd been raised a Catholic. I'd been a Catholic all my life. I was still practicing. I had no concept of other spiritual ways, really nothing to speak of, until this time when my two friends at work got pregnant within days of each other. And then my friend, who is still my closest soulmate friend, Mary Love, lost her baby daughter, Grace. And it was her love and her grief that opened the three of us to the spiritual realms. It was just this very tender and deep exploration with no preconceived ideas. And I think that had so much to do with how influential this was to our lives, that we entered it without knowing what we were doing, kind of, It was just, we were open and wanting to know those very deep answers that are about the mystery of life and death and humanity and divinity. And we were going about it in a very, very personal way, sharing every day at work. And so when this idea that I might be called to do something new came, I kind of looked at it with eagerness and a little bit with, geez, I don't think I really want to leave this job, these women, and face the financial repercussions and all of that. So it took me quite a while. It took me a while to decide that it really was a calling and to give my notice and to leave my job. And then it was 8 months before I knew what it was going to be. And it was this friend, Mary Love, who gave me the information about what it would be because she dreamed it. She came over on her birthday, November 25th, 1998, and told me that she'd had a dream of her own in which she'd seen a new Course in Miracles. And as soon as she said that, it was like all these pieces fell together in my inner being, and I knew that was what I was being called to do. And so just a few days later, on December 1st, I started to receive A Course of Love. And I'll say again, this was something, I was an avid lover of A Course in Miracles, but to think of doing a new Course in Miracles had never entered my mind until a few days beforehand when Mary shared that dream. I mean, who would think to do that? It's like, and that's kind of the way revelation is. I think it surprises you. It's almost always something very new, It's like it's not something you would have thought of.
Right.
And
don't want to interrupt, but a question pops in mind because you sharing the story about the co-workers and how, but you were raised Catholic, and that was really all you knew spiritually was your Catholic religion. When did you start studying A Course in Miracles?
It was after this experience with my friends. We all began to read, but we were reading different things. That was part of the joy and the wonder of it was, like I read A Course in Miracles, and I actually bought it and gave it to the two of them. And Mary did read it, but it wasn't really resonating with her, and Julie didn't read it. But so each of us were pursuing what moved us.
I see.
And then sharing that with each other.
Okay. Well, you did. I have no problem sharing my age. I am 54, so I'll share that with you. I was not raised Catholic, but went to Catholic school, so I am familiar with the Catholic religion. When I say we never became, my parents sent us to Catholic school to get a better education. So this was in the 60s. I went to Catholic school. And you probably are not aware of it, but I did lose my only son 2 years ago. And my inspiration to do this show and also start a nonprofit foundation in his memory came from that experience. So I just wanted to share that with you. But, okay, now you.
No, I do know that, Caroline, and I would be very happy to talk about anything, including, your feelings about that, because I really feel that joining that opened everything up for me came because of that profound love and grief. And like I said, now looking back, I don't know if anything else would have come without that. And of course we all, I've lost my dad now, and but there's something about that time. And to me what it is it's a time that, you're not in charge. You're so aware that it's not up to you, that everything is sort of in this open field, and you are just held. It's like you're just held within it during times like that.
Yes. Yes. It's true that, like you were saying in the beginning, how spirit works within each of us. It's so unique and so beautiful that's why I love on this show sharing that with everyone. Everyone, all my guests coming on and sharing how spirit has worked and moved in their lives, because it's going to be one of the things I like to always remind my listeners. It's going to be uniquely different for each of us. I mean, we'll have similar experiences. We'll have similar experiences of loss. And in truth, when you understand that we haven't really lost, because we still spiritually are always connected. So I always say, what's real can never be lost. So I feel, even though my son has made his transition, I feel closer to him now than when he was here in the physical, because I know now he's always with me. So, it's a beautiful thing when you, I believe, when everybody awakens to the truth of who they are, which is not separate from God and not separate from each other. And we truly don't lose those that go over, transition. It's eternal life. It's just a different transition. We can't see them in the physical anymore, but they're still with us. So I think and that was a beautiful experience you went through with the two ladies that you worked with. It was just really heartwarming to have that connection.
It was, and it was heart-opening. And, Mary actually, one of the early parts of this, for me, opening to, things I'd only had faith in before. That was my Catholicism. I had faith, but I hadn't had any experiences that were beyond faith. And I began to hear from an angel named Peace. And after Mary's daughter died, she wanted me to ask Peace about her daughter, to give her comfort about what had happened. And it was, for me at that time, it was one of the most terrifying things that I ever did, because she so needed this message. And it made me like, oh my God, what if I'm really not hearing? What if I'm hearing incorrectly? What if, all those things. And yet this message was such a gift to her. And after that, she began to eventually hear from her daughter, Grace. And so definitely there is that, my journey also included that knowing of what is beyond form, and that it can be in relationship with form. That loving relationship is always there. Absolutely.
Wonderful. And you said the angel was named Peace? Peace was the name. Yes. Oh, that's beautiful, because I've been so inspired lately by Peace Pilgrim's story. I'm reading her book right now. Actually, her friends put it together after her transition, but I am so inspired by Peace Pilgrim, and just to have an angel by the name of Peace is beautiful. Yeah. So
it really was.
Tell us more about how the book came to you.
Well, like I said, after I knew what it was that was being asked of me, it happened really fast. I hadn't even really wrapped my mind around it yet, but I thought, okay, and so I sat down at my computer on the morning that it began, and first I journaled a little bit, and I thought of that as sort of getting myself out of the way, and then I opened a new file, and it wasn't long at all when I heard the first words, and the first words were, "This is a course in miracles. It is a required course. The time for you to take it is now. You are ready, and miracles are needed." Mm. And that just about blew me away. I mean, first of all, because it was Jesus, and partially from my Catholic, background, I fell to my knees. I mean, it was like stunning. It was just, like the idea that something like this might come, and then its actual coming. The actual coming is so much more powerful. And then the other thing was that it began by saying this is a Course in Miracles, because even while, I had this idea, I thought maybe it would be only obliquely connected. I didn't know, that it started like that. Right. It was kind of scary to me, truthfully. It was like because I revered A Course in Miracles so much, and so many people did, and I thought, wow. But then at the final paragraph of the preface, which is where that opening was said, he says that we will call this a course of love. We're going to take a more direct approach by going to the heart. We're going to leave behind the abstract learning of the mind, and we're going to come to the heart. And so that is really kind of how it began, was with that very...
When that was, what the date that it began?
December 1st, 1998.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I know, it's a long time ago. I think about that now.
Really.
Well, it feels like a long time. I was 43, and I thought I was kind of old then. I think, geez, I was awfully young to be given such a big mission,
Uh-huh.
But what I love most about A Course of Love is that it speaks to the heart. There's this lovely short quote in it that says, all you need do is open the door through which love can enter. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to do so much more. We need to fix ourselves or transform into something other than what we are. And, love really puts that to rest. And, we've kind of had a mental thing going in our culture. And, I think everything that really is worth knowing comes from thinking. And that's all so masculine. But the heart's way is feminine and receptive and embracing and radiant, and so I really love it that it's moved us in that direction, and that we get asked point blank, what do you desire more? Well, what do we desire more than love, Human love and divine love and self-love, those are our keenest desires.
So true, so true. I say frequently on this program and all the time that I try to always keep it very simple. And for me, love is everything. There's nothing. Love is God. God is love. And God is everything. So that means everything is love. So I just keep it that simple for me. And that's how I share with others, because I know I actually came to my awakening to the truth of oneness through quantum physics. It was a quantum physics documentary, What the Bleep. And the thing is, I love that science. A lot of science is showing that we are literally all connected. And this is not really even new science. This is science from almost 100 years ago. So this is so it I get to the point I'm wondering, why doesn't everybody know this by now? Because this is science that has been discovered almost 100 years ago. For eons, spirituality has been teaching us this. So But I say we can keep it simple, and you can make it as complicated, because science can get very complicated and seem very confusing. So it can be made it very complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Just bring it to the simple fact of love, that we are all love. We are all aspects, unique aspects of love. And when you look upon another, just under you don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to think the same. You don't have to look the same. But understand that you're each unique aspects of love. And just from that simple core understanding of love. That's why I love the title is A Course of Love. To me, and it doesn't have to be complicated. But so tell us more after now. How long did it take you to? Because I understand that it was 3 books, correct? Originally.
Yes, it was originally published in 3 separate volumes, and we've only had the combined volume for a couple of years. But that's when it began to catch on, and it's like, I think one of the things was people needed the wholeness of it. There was, a lot of people were buying book 1 and not going on, and that the real, it's like everything else. There's a wholeness to anything. And even, yes, love is simple, and here I've got the 700-page book now,
That's okay. But that's beautiful, because it's a beautiful book to help point people to love. Yes.
It really is. It's so, one of the poignant things for me is to see how difficult it is for some people to let go a little bit of the mind. So really as A Course of Love begins, Jesus is saying we're not going to bring it to the mind. And he gives a lot of credence to A Course in Miracles, which he says threatened the ego. It loosened its hold on us. And so the ego, in Course in Miracles terms and Course of Love terms, is that separate self, the self you think is separate from God. And that's kind of what creates everything that we see. That's the ego self that thinks it's separate and alone and not of love, creates an illusion. With its thinking, it creates an illusionary world. And so we start right at the beginning of this book with not going to the thinking mind, and with having this approach be of the heart, an approach of the heart. So it's really hard for some people to make that transition from being in their heads to being in their heart. And so everything, like, as you said, that can happen, that can help us to do that, because it's really the key to me, is that opening of the heart. And once the heart opens, one of the main themes, so there's actually 3 books. There's the Course, the treatises, there's actually 4 of them, and then the dialogues, which has a 17-chapter narrative, and then this incredible 40-day and night experience at the end. It's just awesome. And the main theme of the first book is to unite mind and heart, and that's called Wholeheartedness. And I really believe that's kind of the key, is to end that division that we have within ourselves. And what I am talking about a lot is trying to help people let go of the ego, because it's like there's this sort of ideal image people hold in their minds, and that until they're perfect, they're still egoic. And
so true.
So it's wonderful that I have this course that also doesn't tell us to strive for an ideal. It says the ideal is being who you are. You don't want to be anybody else. There's no one ideal type of holy person. We were each created as unique manifestations of God, of the one, as you say. And so it's wonderful in that way. In that way, it is advancing a certain part of the population that really is kind of started out close, So that I think A Course in Miracles brought a lot of people really close, but it was so mindful. And it even says in A Course in Miracles that it can't take you beyond the ego. And then A Course of Love says it kind of starts that way, taking you beyond the ego. So they really do work together. And so I've been really pleased in the last couple of years that people are beginning to see that. And there isn't a big contingent of people who think it's really wrong, that this course came along and said it was a new Course in Miracles,
Well, I myself, I am not a student of the Course in Miracles. I did try. I think I first heard of the Course in Miracles in 2009, and I went to the library. I picked it up. I tried to read it, and I brought it right back. It did, in a sense, I resonate with everything that's in it. I know I resonate with all that's in it because of all my dear new friends who are Course in Miracles students. So that's why I say I know I resonate with it, because I haven't read the book. It was a difficult read for me, and maybe because it was very, like you said, heady. So I'm sure if I picked up A Course of Love first, I would have read that. I would have not returned it right away to the library, because it's dealing on the heart level. So, but also I say it's with any book, it's what resonates. Some books are easier to read for others, and some books just resonate. I know one of my favorite books is The Power of Now. And when I first bought The Power of Now, it was before I had awakened to the truth of oneness. And I was trying to read it. I read the first chapter, and I put it down. I'm like, I'm just not understanding this. And I put it down. But as soon as I was awakened to the truth of oneness, I picked it up again, and I couldn't put it down. I read it from cover to cover, and it is now one of my favorite books. So it's like I forget who said it, but when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I'm sure if I picked up A Course in Miracles now, I have a different response to it than I had in 2009. Even though in 2009 I was awakened to the truth of oneness, because I awoke to the truth of oneness in 2007. But it's still, that's why we have all these wonderful books, all these wonderful material, like A Course in Miracles, A Course of Love, Conversations with God. There's so many wonderful books that point us to the truth of oneness, to the truth of love. So, and I think that's great, because there's so many. We're all unique, and so we need we need all these books and probably more, because we need books that's something that's going to speak to every one of us, which is all one. So
exactly, and that what you're talking about with Eckhart, and how it didn't get you the first time, and it's like, for me, it's like it has to touch me. Somehow it has to touch me for me to get it, and I think that's, for me, I need the words of love. You know what I mean? I need, and I loved A Course in Miracles also because I could, and maybe because I never went to a group. I just picked it up and started reading it, and Jesus was talking about our thinking, and it was like, oh my God, that's how I think, and He knows me. It was like I didn't pick it up certain that this was Jesus. It just like, oh my gosh. And then, later through this realization that if this book is popular all over the world, I'm not the only one who thinks in this crazy way, And and so, but I do need to have my heart touched. I need that. And so and I really do like a person behind the teaching. The more I know about the person who is delivering the message, the better I feel about it, So those are, and other people, they don't. So I totally agree with you. Everything is different.
Right.
But, I'm preparing for a talk in Sedona, and I'm very new to this. I'm not comfortable yet with it. And but I'm bringing this up because it's really interesting. I kind of had my idea of what I wanted to talk about, and so I was going through my own course, to kind of look at the quotes that fit my theme. And after a while, it was like I just got so weary, and it was like it gave me a good way to actually explain or, to clarify the heart's knowing, because it was like I was breaking it down. When I was doing that with this, finding these quotes, it was like I was breaking it down into these parts, and I think that's what the mind does. And the heart, the real treasure of the heart is that it knows in wholeness. And I have experienced this ever since I received this course. I mean, one of the reasons I really never wanted to go out and talk about it because I can't remember it. I can't remember it in any normal way. It's like it didn't sink in at the level of the mind and of concept. But in my heart, in my soul, in my very being, I know it through and through. But it's a different way of knowing. And that's what I really love about this course, is that it is about that. It's kind of a mystical way of knowing, really. It's that way of being able to hold the paradox and, enter the unknown and let what comes come. Yes. No more going out to get. We've kind of had that thing where it's like we've got a bow and arrow, and we aim our arrow at a target, and we're going in that direction, come hell or high water, And what I've found is you got to let it come,
So true. So true. I think that's what I think that's what I really got with the power of now, understanding that the now moment is really all we need to be concerned with. I realized when reading The Power of Now that I knew for me I was never in the now. I was always like fretting over the past or dreaming of the future. It was the now moment was escaping me, and the now moment, life in general was escaping me because life happens in the now, and so I was missing life by not being focused in the now, and understanding that all we need is right here and now. We are perfect in this right now moment, and we don't have to do anything except understand understand our connection to the divine, to God, to our higher self, whatever word, whatever term, they all mean the same. But that was very key for me, for my peace of mind, is knowing that I just need to be right here, right now, and be thankful in this right now moment, and know that I am perfect in this right now moment. I don't need to change. I don't need to do anything, but embrace the now. So those were two, understanding oneness, that we're all connected, and understanding that all there is the now. Those two combined is what really kind of elevated my, I would say, spiritual growth. To find lack of a better term, because I do understand that we're all equal in that sense. We're all unique, but we're all equal. And what I believe does not have to resonate with anyone else. So I always say that. Yes.
One thing I have found, though, is that it's to me, for me, love opened up my healing. And I think that this is kind of the way, too, that and in this course, Jesus actually tells us point blank, the ego is gone. You might not believe this, but if you've let this course into your heart, it's gone. And we're going to move on from here. And even after this proclamation, that the ego is gone, we're still talking about healing, And so, like for me, I was a single mom, and that really took me a long time to heal because I felt so powerless and so alone, and I got kind of a poor self-image of myself. And so that, stayed with me. And so I just want to add to this power of now that there do come these moments when we have the power of love is strong enough that we can look at those things that hurt us and heal them and move on. And so I don't think it means there's never anything that we have to look at from the past. But when we come to it from love instead of with our thinking mind, it's not, it's not a long-term ordeal,
Right. Well, for me, I see the connections of the past. Like you spoke about being 61, and I'm not much younger, 54. And just when I look at my life, I just see how everything was divinely timed. At that, during that time in my 20s and 30s, I didn't feel like things were happening in divine timing. But now when I look back, now when I look back, I see how everything was happened exactly perfectly to bring me to this now moment. So that's kind of where I am with the past. So I don't regret anything in the past. I got married very young. Got married at 17, and I had my children. Yes, and I think I heard that, and I always listen to my upcoming guests, and I think I heard you say that in one of your talks. Yes, I got married at 17, and I had my children. I had my daughter when I was 19. I had my son when I was 24, 23, 24, something like that. And so I had my children. I was married 8 years. It didn't last, and I ended up raising my children on my own. My son wasn't even 2 when my husband and I separated. So it was, I definitely, you and I, we can relate to a lot of the same thing. But I also, now I look back and I see how all of that was meant to be, and it was, everything happens in divine timing. We never feel like it's divine timing when we're going through it. But when we look back and we grow spiritually and understand who we truly are, which is an aspect of God, so it's like, would someone say to God, well, you made a mistake? You wouldn't tell God he made a mistake, but you are an aspect of God. And it's like you were saying, it's just our mind is creating this illusion that's not real. So it's no mistake because it's not real, So when so I understand what you're saying. But yes, I went through many of those feelings of feeling very much alone and raising my children on my own, and I went through a lot of those times. Cry the river, feeling alone, and then I understand that feeling of loneliness is the biggest deception, because we're never alone. We are the essence of who we are is love. So we don't have to look for love outside of ourselves, because the essence of us is love. And so we're the embodiment of love. And when you understand that, you can't feel alone anymore, So, I mean, even though there may not be anyone around us, right? I think you and I have a lot in common. You have a grandson, and I have a grandson. I think around the same age. My grandson is 6. He just spent his whole summer with his Mima. Mima. So,
that's
and
right.
and
I'm
right,
Amma.
You're right. And the reason we're pre-recording this show is because Friday nights you spend with your grandson. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So,
yeah.
So we do have a lot in common,
Absolutely.
which is wonderful. Yes.
And you know what? Now I love this about myself, and I love it for A Course of Love too, that I'm not a teacher. I'm a very ordinary person. I'm a grandma. I'm a loving person. I'm a kind person, you know? And it's like, so when I go out to talk to people, really all I'm asked to be is who I am. I still get nervous, I admit that, but, you know, if I just go as who I am, but I like the idea of being able to be an example of somebody who's just living their life, but living their life in this realm of love. And I think it's kind of an encouragement in a way, because one of the things Jesus says in this course is that it is humble and ordinary people like yourself who in their multitude will create a new world. And so I think, you know, this idea that, you know, there is kind of an idea out there that you have to do a lot of spiritual practices or meditate, or you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to teach, you have to learn. And this really simplifies everything to being loving and knowing that you are loved, as you've been saying. So anyway, I'm kind of glad that I can represent myself as an ordinary person who has had the extraordinary come into my life, and that we can all find it right in our ordinary lives.
That is so true. That is so true, because what you're saying is so true, because I feel that I always say I'm not a teacher. I believe we can all teach and learn from each other. So we're all teachers and students in one. We embody the aspects of teaching, and we embody the aspects of learning from another in one. But I always say I'm not a teacher, I'm not a preacher. I always say if what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, it's fine. I'm just sharing what resonates with me. I'm just sharing my journey. And I love through this podcast, I can meet others like you. And just in this short conversation, we've discovered so much that we have in common. And it's just it's just meeting others like you and inviting them onto the show and sharing with the world. And I love the fact that from a podcast that can go globally and can touch the world, we can share this conversation with the world. And it's so true about just being yourself, just being love. I love the term love in action. Just being yourself and being love in action. And through this show, I've met so many that I just stayed close with, that just doing the same thing. And it's not about, being a guru or, having people put you on a pedestal, because it's not about any of that, because we're all equal. We're all the same. We just have, we're unique aspects of God. We're divine light shining, and what God wants us to do is just shine our light and be you. And no one else can be you, We all have that unique aspect of God,
Absolutely.
So it's wonderful, truly is. How old is your grandson?
He's 9.
9, okay.
And I have one almost 3. But, the 9-year-old is the one who lived with me for a time, and so still comes over once a week. I have to have my time with him. But one of when I was done receiving A Course of Love, and I think it's so funny because there's this part in the Course where Jesus says, I'm revealing to you the key to, the abundance of, everything, and you want to know the details, how, what, when, where, and when I was done with the course, I asked Jesus, okay, what am I to do now? And I wanted him to tell me a who, what, when, where answer. It's like I wanted to know what to do next.
That's
and
our
he
ego.
said, "Oh, and well, it's our humanity anyway." And he said, "Be a companion to those willing to leave hell behind." And it took me a long time to feel into that it was, but what I finally, the companion part actually didn't bother me at all. Right. That, and it still suits me. It's like, that's a good word, because companions, we walk beside each other. We're vulnerable, we're open to each other. Nobody's higher, nobody's lower. But the hell part, until I realized that, for me, the way I identified it was hell is the ego. Ego creates the hell. So it's people who are willing to leave that behind. That's who I'm to companion. And then it kind of made sense to me. But I've found that everything, all the messages that I've gotten from Jesus, both at least that are more personally to me, they're never do this, do that. And who wants that anyway? Really, when it comes right down to it, you are called to go out to kind of meet your mission or meet your destiny or meet that vocation that's given to you. And so if you had, a very specific answer, you wouldn't have to do that part that's yours, that's going out in your own way to do it in a way that suits who you are in your humanity and divinity combined,
So true. That is so true. Yes, and I always say, too, is to follow the heart. Your passion, your mission, your purpose here, why we came, why each person came, it's in their heart. And if they really just tap into their heart and do what you love, follow your passion, that will bring you exactly where you're supposed to be. And like you were saying with when you were writing the book, and you had a dream, and you got the notion that you should leave your job, and you loved your job, and that can be scary. But we know, it's, everything I've done, like, it has led me. I've never planned. I did not plan this life that I'm living right now.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah.
It wasn't planned. But everything that came before was leading me exactly right here. So I understand that, sometimes I say to people that say, well, I don't know what my passion is. I don't know. It's like, well, just sit quietly for a minute. And kind of the mind can sometimes run amok, Try to quiet the mind and just tune into your heart, because it's right there. It's inside your heart, and it's trying to get out. It's trying to whatever, because your soul, and you know when you're following your mission, because you feel a sense of joy, because your soul is singing. You're just overwhelmed. And every time I do this show, I feel that. I feel overwhelmed with joy and just I'm like on a high, a natural high. So I know that doing this show is part of what is my calling to do, because it gives me such joy, and then such joy to share and to meet so many, and I'll never run out of guests, because there's so many. I'm meeting every week, every day. I'm meeting new people that are doing the same thing, following their passion, sharing their joy, and being love in action. And that's what's so wonderful. I'm actually this year, last year, like I've been doing this show now for a year and a half, and this year it's been mostly spiritual guests. So I always say at the beginning of my show that not just spirituality, but also science is telling us that we're all one, the truth of oneness. So the end of this fall, going into the winter months, I intend to have several more scientists on the show. Like last year, I had a mixture of spiritual guests and science, and so now I'm starting to line up new scientists, which is wonderful because again, I can never run out of guests. There's so many people in both spirituality and science, and just lay people. I've had comedians and artists and people of all walks of life, and it's wonderful. It really
and the ways to express things is there. And the scientists, the confirmation, like my friend whose daughter died, she went on to really explore, life after death, and there's so much now being revealed about that. It's not crazy woo-woo stuff anymore. PhD scientists are exploring this realm and saying it's real, and that is, it's not necessarily mainstream yet, but we're on our way,
Yes.
And I wanted to share with you too this, interviewing that you do. A Course of Love ends in dialogue, and I love that. It's like put the books away and go live it and be in dialogue as who you are. Share who you are. Bring as many expressions of love to the world as you are here to bring. This is kind of what we're hearing at the end of it, and we're to gather in dialogue. So this whole idea of studying and learning kind of gets put behind us, and we move into sharing and union and relationship, and sharing by coming to voice and being in dialogue. And, of course, it's also said creation is a dialogue. So it's not only about voice, but I also love doing one-on-one dialogue. So I call them dialogues, not interviews, but I've been doing those as well, mainly with people who've read A Course of Love, to hear their story and what it means to them and how they live it. And I absolutely love doing them. And I said that to a friend who said, well, why don't you just do that then? And I was like, could I,
Yeah.
But, so there's...
That's amazing. Yeah, because I've said to, I always say I don't do interviews. I never have a list of questions. My only question is for my guests to share and share their journey, share their story, and from there we have an organic dialogue in the moment. So I don't do. I've had to, because I've had I have my show on YouTube and Facebook and all the social media, and I've had a couple of people, because a lot of people are used to radio shows, the host interviewing the guests. And I've had a couple of comments, well, that wasn't really an interview. And then I was like, yeah, I don't do interviews.
Yeah. So some people called my dialogues interviews. I said, no, they're not interviews.
Right. Yeah, I like the term Fireside Chat, especially because I'm in the Poconos, and in the wintertime, I'll have a nice fire going. But nice fireside chat, and I feel with all of my guests, I just feel this overwhelming connection of love, and so grateful when because some of my guests are very well known, and some are not so well known, but to me, it's just all wonderful. It's all that beautiful sharing. And like you were saying, dialogue. I also have a book club once a month. Now, the interesting thing of the book club, we decided at the first meeting not to study any one book, because there's so many wonderful spiritual books. So what we do monthly, we pick a topic, and I think this month's topic, which is Saturday, is going to be unity. So we pick unity or oneness. I forget which one. I think it's unity. But we pick a topic every month as a group. We say, okay, next month, what will our topic be? And so then we come together, and for 2 hours we discuss that topic. So because we feel there's so many wonderful books, and so instead of having, focusing on one book, let's just share,
That's a fabulous idea.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, so I really, really do love doing that because I get to, that's kind of my one-on-one, face-to-face, because I'm on the computer all the time and I'm interacting with listeners and guests, but it's wonderful to have that face-to-face contact at least once a month. So
you don't ever do yours in person, your interview, your dialogues.
Right, my fireside chats. I've not actually. I've been invited to do a show by one of my listeners. I've been invited to come to Maryland and do a show in person. So that could be coming up. So that could be coming up in my future. Yes. Yes. Now, you said earlier you were going to be in Sedona. Please tell our listeners about that. Yes.
Gosh, I'm at the Unity of Sedona, but I was going to tell you I'm going to be in Philadelphia. That's where you are, right?
I'm in the Poconos. I'm 2 hours north of Philadelphia, but I'd love, Philly, that's close enough. When are you going to be in Philadelphia? Philly, I call it.
In February.
Awesome.
I'm going to be at the Center for Contemporary Mysticism, and so that'll be a short thing, and then I'll have an all-day Course of Love thing while I'm there. So anyway, just keep that in mind, just in case.
Oh, definitely. That's going on my calendar.
I should say Sedona is next, and it is October 21st at Unity of Sedona, and I'm really looking forward to that. I've never been there, and I have heard it's a wonderful spiritual community there.
Wow.
So I'm looking forward to sharing.
Sedona, I hear wonderful things about. I've never been, but I hear wonderful things are going on in Sedona. And that week of October 1st is an amazing week. Have you heard of Global Oneness Day? Well, that Global Oneness Day is October 24th. It's Monday this year. It's actually this year is the 7th annual Global Oneness Day. And
I'll still be there on the 24th.
You can listen. It's an all-day telesummit with some wonderful speakers. There is Deepak. He's the honorary chair. Panasha Sai, Reverend Michael Beckwith, many scientists. We were talking about there's a science panel with Greg Braden. I mean, the list is endless. It's a 12-hour. It's a 12-hour telesummit.
I have heard about it. Yeah.
And this year is the 7th annual Global Oneness Day. So I'm hoping I would like to be in Colorado for that week. Not sure if I'll make it, but you'll be in Sedona, and that's an amazing place to be for that week. I think a lot of good stuff is going on that week, so that's wonderful. So share with our listeners. Share with our listeners again where you will be in Sedona on the 21st.
Sedona Unity Church.
Okay.
And
Sedona
I don't
Unity.
really know the address, but I'm going to give you my
website.
Okay. www. And then very simple, acourseoflove.com. And there is an event page that has all the information about that event. And
Yes.
I know we're coming to the close of our time. This went fast.
Hey, I always said, don't worry, it's my show, so we we could go a few minutes over. It is okay. It's okay. But yes, A Course of Love. So I'm looking right at your website now, and it's acourseoflove.com, and you have an event page where people can find you and also find your book. And that is amazing. So I know you say you are new to speaking, traveling and speaking, but you have a pretty full schedule coming up. And I definitely, do you know what day in February? Because I will definitely come and meet you, because I love meeting my guests face to face.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I think it's the 25th.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm not very good with details, but it might not
okay.
be on there yet. But anyway, if I will let you know. I will be sure that you're on the mailing list for it. How's that?
Thank you, because I'll definitely drive down to Philadelphia and love. Thank you so much, Mari. I so appreciate your time and you sharing with our listeners. The wonderful thing about podcasts is, well, this particular podcast is being pre-recorded, meaning we didn't have any live listeners. But the wonderful thing about it is that with a podcast, that it is global and people all over the world can listen in on our conversation, on our dialogue.
On our dialogue. It is the wave of the future, isn't it?
Yes.
That you can reach so many this way.
Yes.
Yeah, and I do have readers around the world, so this is a great thing. I'm really appreciative.
A Course of Love, has it been translated into other languages?
It has. It was in the past just the first book, but now a French translation is coming out, and there is work on Spanish and Norwegian and Swedish. I hope I'm not forgetting anything important. But anyway, many
answer the question. It is translated in a few other languages, and it's being translated into more, which is wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mari. I so appreciate this, and we are going to definitely stay in contact via email, and hopefully we get to meet each other face to face so I can give you a big hug in February.
I would love that. And can I end with a quote from the book? Would that be okay?
Please,
okay.
Yes.
Good. This is actually from the introduction. It's one of my favorite sort of short passages to read. Okay, here goes. The mind cannot hold open the doors of the heart, and yet we turn within. Turn to the mind and show it where its openness lies, where sweetness abides, where love's knowing is found. All the mind can do is rearrange reality and hold it still and captive and rule-bound. The laws of love are not love such as these. The laws of love are not rules, facts, or right answers. The laws of love bring spiritual freedom, the freedom that lies beyond belief, beyond thought, beyond adherence to any authority other than one's own heart. The heart is needed to guide the mind in a way that it does not desire to be guided, a way that is one of joining, a way that does not allow the mind's separate stance, its rules, or its right answers. The heart is needed because it is who and where you are and responds in love to what is one with it. We are one heart. We are one mind. The route to oneness and union, to life in form that accepts oneness and union, to a humanity restored to wholeness, is through the heart of the mind.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much, Mari, for reading that. That is so beautiful. It really is. One of the things when you were reading, it was saying rearranging, and it made me think about. I like to use the term. Sometimes we just are rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. You know, when we're trying to fix stuff in the illusion, and we're just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. The ship is still sinking. Okay. Yes, that's what we do. That's what we do in this illusion. A lot of times, we're just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Yes, and it comes so much. It's everything I've studied and read, and it has different language, whether it be spiritual or scientific. It's all comes to that unity, to that oneness, to love. It all boils down to that. So it's so wonderful. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful weekend, and have a great time with your grandson this weekend.
Oh, I will. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you again, Caroline.
Yes, we will definitely
seeing you for the first time.
Yes. Yes, we will definitely keep in touch.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And if you're ever in the Poconos is, we're in the mountains, we're 2 hours north of Philadelphia. So if you're ever in the Poconos, look me up. Okay.
I sure will.
All righty. Thank you so much. You have a great evening. Well, actually, it's daytime, but I'm so used to doing this at night. But you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
God bless.
You too.
Okay.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.